Legend 1. The Curse of the Yurei. In a remote village, surrounded by dense forests and mountains that seemed to touch the sky, there lived a family known for their peace and respect for ancient traditions. Yukiko and Tetsuo, the young couple of the village, lived in a modest house on the outskirts of town. However, on one autumn night, their fate was about to change forever. That night, a mysterious woman knocked at their door. She was dressed in white, with a face as pale as chalk and eyes that were pure white, devoid of iris or pupil, as if they were empty. The wind blew cold as the woman spoke in whispered words, almost impossible to understand. Her name was Hana, and she told them that she was a Yurei, a vengeful spirit condemned to wander between worlds until it found revenge. Hana told a disturbing tale. Many years ago, she had lived in a village near an ancient temple, where she was murdered by a man who had stolen a sacred treasure from the temple. This treasure had been guarded by monks and was meant to maintain the balance between the world of the living and the world of spirits. The man who stole the treasure was punished, but in Hana's fury, the curse spread over the entire village. Anyone who came near the temple or interacted with the treasure was struck by her vengeance. The spirit of Hana asked for Tetsuo and Yukiko's help to restore the treasure to the temple and give her a place of eternal rest, thus ending the curse that haunted the surrounding lands. In exchange, she gave them a magical amulet that would protect their family from the evil that her spirit would unleash. Tetsuo, filled with courage and hope, decided to take on this mission, ignoring Hana's warnings about the dangers that awaited them. After bidding farewell to Yukiko, Tetsuo set off toward the temple, braving the dark forests and treacherous mountain terrain. As he neared the temple, a strange, thick, cold mist surrounded him, and the shadows of the forest seemed to come to life, moving in eerie rhythms. At the temple, Tetsuo found the ancient relics, but also an oppressive presence, like a silence that swallowed everything around him. There, he returned the stolen treasure, but before he could leave, Hana's spirit revealed itself. Her face was a mix of pain and pure fury, and her eyes had transformed into an empty, sinister void, full of vengeance. At that moment, Tetsuo felt a sharp pain in his chest and collapsed to the ground, as Hana's spirit cursed him, and all who had ever tried to protect that place. With one final scream, Tetsuo was consumed by the vengeful spirit, and the temple was swallowed by darkness. When Tetsuo returned home, his eyes were hollow, and his body seemed inhabited by another being. Yukiko, worried about her husband's behavior, noticed that a dark shadow seemed to follow him always, and his footsteps grew heavy and oppressive. One night, Yukiko found Tetsuo sitting in the middle of a dark room, murmuring Hana's name and crying tears of blood. That night, with the help of the amulet Hana had left them, Yukiko tried to protect him from the vengeful spirit. But instead of bringing peace, the amulet began to glow with a faint, pale light. Hana's spirit appeared before her, showing the true nature of the curse. If they hadn't been able to restore balance at the temple, the curse would spread to their entire family. In a moment of desperation, Yukiko tried to destroy the amulet, but it was too late. The village was consumed by a strange presence. People began disappearing one by one, and those who ventured into the forest never returned. Each night, on the hills surrounding the temple, heavy footsteps and cries of agony could be heard, and a cold wind blew from the mountains, carrying with it a chilling silence. The remains of Yukiko and Tetsuo's family live only in the memories of those who dare to tell this horrifying tale. Legend 2. The Whispering Lake. In a small village in northern Japan, near a dense and dark forest, there lies an isolated lake, said to be haunted by spirits. The lake was known as Mizu no Kami, or the Lake of the Water God, but no one dared to approach it. The story tells that many decades ago, a young fisherman named Haruto fell in love with a beautiful woman he met in the forest by the lake. The woman had hair as black as night, and eyes that sparkled like stars, and her presence was both enchanting and terrifying. Haruto visited her often, and the woman always invited him to meet near the mysterious lake. She told him she was a spirit of the waters, an ancient and powerful entity that lived in the depths of the lake. Haruto became obsessed with her and her stunning beauty, but also with the mysterious promises she made about love and immortality. One night, during a full moon, the woman told Haruto that if he jumped into the lake and sank deep into the water, she would grant him immortality, but at a price. Haruto, his mind clouded by the desire to be with her forever, agreed without question. He jumped into the water, and as soon as he touched the depths of the lake, a powerful whirlpool dragged him into the abyss. What Haruto didn't know was that the woman was not a spirit of love, but a Yurei of the waters, condemned to lure men into the lake to steal their souls. Once Haruto was caught in the grasp of the deep waters, he felt unbearable pain, and horrifying visions flooded his mind. Visions of the ghosts of those who had already been swallowed by the lake, with hollow eyes and distorted bodies. Before he lost consciousness, he heard a faint and sinister whisper telling him, "Return and find me in the night, to save your soul." When the village learned of Haruto's disappearance, they gathered and began searching around the lake, but no one dared to get too close to the water. Over time, the village began to be haunted by a strange presence. People began having visions of the mysterious woman, whispering their names, and the sound of flowing water could be heard even when there was no nearby stream. A brave young man named Kenji decided to uncover the secret of the lake. He made a dangerous journey at night, armed with a lantern and a protective amulet, hoping to put an end to the haunting. When he reached the lake, he heard the woman's whispers around him, and his sharp eyes saw a pale white figure rising from the depths of the water. The woman told him it was too late, and his soul was to be hers forever. Kenji tried to flee, but the lake's water seemed to rise around him, like invisible arms pulling him toward the depths. In the final moment, he threw the amulet into the lake, and the woman's spirit spread into the air in a bright light that illuminated the entire forest. Soon after, the lake began to calm, and the dreadful presence disappeared. Since then, the village was saved, but people still avoid the lake. Many say that on full moon nights, one can still hear the woman's whispers coming from the depths of the lake, searching for her next victim. Legend 3. The Bell of the Dead Temple. In a village at the foot of a high and rocky mountain, there was an abandoned temple known to all the locals as haunted. The temple was old and rusted, with a tall bell tower that seemed to touch the sky. At the sunset of each day, a faint bell sound could be heard echoing in the cold mountain air. However, this sound was not one of peace. It was a sound that brought fear and unease to all who were unfortunate enough to hear it. The legend says that many years ago, the temple was home to a monk named Kaito, who lived there with other monks. Kaito was known for his disciplined and pious life, but deep in his heart there was an uncontrollable desire for power. He became obsessed with the idea of controlling the world of spirits, believing that through a secret ritual he could live forever. On a starry night, Kaito performed the ritual, summoning the spirits of those who had died in the temple and in the surrounding area. But instead of gaining immortality, he unleashed a malevolent and limitless power that seized him and all the monks. The entire monastery was covered by a thick fog, and the bell in the tower began to ring in a strange manner, like a summons to the spirits. Anyone who ventured into the monastery could not see in the thick darkness, but they could feel an evil presence surrounding them. The people of the village tried to save the temple and put an end to the terror, but no one ever returned alive. It was said that in order to calm the spirits, someone had to find the bell and stop it. But as the years passed, the temple was forgotten, and the legend became a terrifying story passed down from mouth to mouth. One day, a young monk named Hiroshi arrived in the village, determined to uncover the truth behind the frightening tales. Hiroshi was not like the other monks. He was full of courage and wished to face the mysteries of the abandoned temple. On a full moon night, Hiroshi set out for the temple, guided by the sound of the bell ringing in the depths of the forest. As he got closer, the air grew colder and heavier, and the shadows of the forest seemed to follow him. When he reached the temple's entrance, Hiroshi noticed the door was open, and a dim light was filtering through the cracks in the walls. The bell continued to toll, like a sinister summons. Hiroshi entered with heavy steps and climbed toward the bell tower. There, at the base of the bell, he found a stone altar covered in lit candles and statues of demonic figures. Upon seeing this, Hiroshi understood that the spirits haunting the temple were demons captured during Kaito's ritual. In a moment of horror, Hiroshi saw a spectral monk emerge from the darkness, with empty eyes and a face covered by an ink mask. He told Hiroshi that Kaito's ritual had destroyed the balance between the worlds, and that only by sacrificing a pure soul could the bell be stopped. Hiroshi tried to flee, but the bell began to ring louder, and the darkness seemed to consume him completely. With each toll, the feeling of dread deepened, and the spirits in the temple grew more visible. Finally, Hiroshi realized that the only way to confront the curse was to face the spirits and bring a pure light into the temple. He began to chant a sacred hymn, and his voice echoed through the temple, causing the bell to lessen in intensity. In a final effort, Hiroshi managed to stop the bell and bury the demonic spirits in his light. Though the bell no longer rang, the temple remained haunted, and Hiroshi disappeared without a trace, leaving only a deep silence behind. Many say that on full moon nights the bell can still be heard, but only those brave enough approach it, for it is known that any soul that stays too long near the temple will become a part of the legend. Legend 4. The Ghostly Bride of the Moonlit Mountain. At the edge of an isolated village, deep within a narrow valley, there lies a mountain that glows like silver on nights with a full moon. People say that this mountain is cursed, and that any traveler who dares to climb it on a moonlit night risks encountering an ancient and merciless spirit. The legend tells of a tragedy long ago, when a young bride named Akemi was lost in the dark forests atop the mountain on the day of her wedding. Akemi was a beautiful woman, known for her kindness and nobility of heart. She was engaged to a young man named Haruto, a brave and loving man who promised to protect her forever. Together they dreamed of a happy life filled with love and harmony. But on their wedding day, a tragic accident changed everything. As they made their way to the temple where the ceremony was to take place, a group of bandits attacked their caravan, and Haruto was gravely injured in a fight with them. Desperate, Akemi ran to find help, but in the darkness of the night, she fell into the forests on the mountain and vanished without a trace. It is said that on that night the moon shone brightly in the sky, and the forests were filled with echoes of Akemi's lost footsteps. For days, Haruto searched for her, but with no result. The world believed that Akemi had been kidnapped by the bandits, but no one knew that her spirit had been captured by the cursed mountain. It is said that, with her last breath, Akemi swore that she would return to find Haruto, and that her love would never die. Many years later, a group of brave young people decided to climb the cursed mountain, wishing to uncover the mystery of Akemi's disappearance. They had heard rumors of a bride who haunted the mountain peaks on full moon nights, and one of the young men in the group, named Satoshi, became fascinated by her story. Satoshi was a curious and adventurous young man, and his desire to face fear and discover the truth about Akemi's spirit was stronger than any fear. On a full moon night, the group began their ascent of the mountain. As they neared the summit, a thick fog began to descend upon them, and the air grew colder and heavier. The moonlight barely filtered through the branches of the trees, and the silence was broken only by the sound of their footsteps. In a moment of stillness, Satoshi heard a faint sound like a whisper coming from the depths of the forest. When he turned his head, he saw a white silhouette moving among the trees. It was a woman dressed in white, with her face hidden beneath a veil. Satoshi's heart began to race. He knew it was Akemi. With cautious steps, Satoshi approached the woman, and she turned toward him with a cold and penetrating gaze. In her eyes there was a deep sorrow, but also an unshakable resolve. The woman spoke in a cold voice, telling Satoshi that the love between Akemi and Haruto had been interrupted by a malevolent force, and that from that moment on, nothing would reunite their souls. In an explosion of fury, Akemi revealed that she had been trapped between two worlds, doomed to haunt the mountain until true love would revive her bond with Haruto. Satoshi, terrified, tried to run, but the forest seemed to change around him, and every tree seemed to press in on him. With each step, Akemi's spirit grew closer. In one final effort, Satoshi shouted Haruto's name, and at that moment, a blinding light pierced through the dense fog. Akemi disappeared in a cloud of mist, leaving behind an apocalyptic silence. Since that night, no sound has been heard on the mountain. Akemi's spirit at last found peace. But the legend says that on every full moon night, the mountaintop glows, and brave young souls who venture into the forest atop the mountain will feel the presence of a spirit still waiting to reunite two loving souls. Legend 5. The Woman in the Red Kimono. In a small village surrounded by dense forests and snow-covered mountains, there was a tale that haunted everyone living there. It was said that every winter, at the beginning of December, a mysterious woman dressed in a brilliant red kimono would appear in the village, but no one knew who she was or where she came from. The legend told that the woman carried with her an ancient curse, and that her presence brought misfortune and death. It all began many years ago, when the village was just a small settlement on the edge of a wild forest. At that time, a young man named Hiroshi lived there. Hiroshi was a good boy, but also very brave, who wished to become a great craftsman. One day, while working in his workshop, a strong wind brought with it a mysterious woman, wearing a red silk kimono that seemed to glow in the light of the sunset. The woman asked for Hiroshi's help, saying she was lost and needed shelter for the night. Hiroshi, impressed by her beauty and sadness, invited her into his home. However, he did not know that by doing so, he had invited great misfortune upon himself. During the night, Hiroshi was awakened by a scream for help. When he descended into the living room, he found the woman standing before a large mirror, staring intently at her reflection. Her eyes were filled with tears, and her beautiful face now seemed contorted in pain. The woman told him that she was not just a traveler, but a princess from a distant land who had been cursed by a wicked witch. The curse condemned her to wander without rest, seeking a man who would love her and save her. Yet, every time someone grew fond of her, the curse would reignite, and the man would die in a mysterious way. Hiroshi, though terrified, vowed to help the woman, and promised he would not fall victim to the curse. Despite his vow, the following night, Hiroshi had a strange dream. In the dream, a terrifying witch with burning eyes told him that no man could break the woman's curse. No matter how you try, your life will be taken, the witch warned. Hiroshi tried to ignore the warning, but the next morning he found the village deserted. Every house was abandoned, and silence enveloped the place. Desperately searching through the village, Hiroshi came across an old woman who revealed the truth. The woman in the red kimono was a princess who, due to unrequited love, had been cursed to become a shadow of the past, haunting villages and bringing misfortune. Any man who tried to save her would become the next victim of her unreturned love. Realizing there was no way to escape, Hiroshi returned to his home. He found the woman again before the mirror, but to his horror, her eyes were no longer filled with tears. Now, her gaze was cold and penetrating, and her beautiful face had transformed into an evil smile. In that moment, the woman said, "Your love has been cursed. I will take you with me." Hiroshi tried to flee, but he could no longer move. The woman's red kimono stretched, enveloping the entire room, and everything became dark. When he awoke, he was no longer in his village. He had been transported to a dark world, where only shadows roamed. Since then, no one has seen him again. The legend says that every year, in December, the woman in the red kimono returns to the lost village, seeking another man to save her. But anyone who tries to help her will become her next victim, condemned to wander for eternity, forever searching for the love that will never come. Legend 6. The Lantern of the Forgotten Souls. In an isolated village, hidden between snow-covered mountains, there lies an ancient forest, known for harboring the shadows of those forgotten by the world. The forest is infamous for a glowing light that appears every autumn night, floating in the air like a mysterious lantern. Those who have seen it claim that this lantern belongs to a cursed spirit, one who gathers the souls of the lost and locks them in a forgotten place, where time no longer flows. It was said that the lantern was guarded by a malevolent spirit named Akira, a man who had lived many years ago. Akira was a simple man with a big heart, and he had loved deeply a woman named Yuki. Their love was pure, but it was not meant to be. One dark winter's night, a mysterious man appeared in the village and offered a deal to fulfill the desires of those living there. For each wish, the man asked for a price, though no one knew what that price would be. Akira, wanting to give his beloved all that she wished for, agreed to make a deal with this man. Though the man did not warn him of the consequences, Akira fell into a trap. After signing the agreement, Akira learned that, in exchange for the desires, he would have to pay with his own life. One night, while walking with Yuki in the forest, Akira felt his soul begin to detach from his body, and a bright light enveloped the area. Soon after, Yuki vanished into thin air, and Akira was condemned to wander the forest forever. Every night, he would light the lantern, and its glow would shine like a call to those who had lost their way. Those who approached the lantern had two choices: to be saved from the curse of the forest, or to be drawn forever into the world of shadows. Akira offered the lost souls a choice, but not all were lucky enough to escape. Some would become part of the forest, doomed to live in the darkness for eternity. A group of young people from a neighboring village, curious and brave, had heard the legend and decided to travel into the forest to confront the spirit of Akira. Among them was a young woman named Hana, who had lost her parents years ago and wished to know if it was possible to find them. With strong determination, Hana led the group through the forest, and at one point they arrived before the mysterious light. The lantern, hanging from an ancient tree, shone brightly, and from the darkness a silhouette appeared. Akira, with eyes full of sorrow and regret, told them that the only way to escape the curse of the forest was to give up their desires and leave without seeking anything in return. However, Hana, determined to find her parents, asked for Akira's help. At that moment, Akira hesitated, but moved closer to her. His eyes filled with sadness, and the lantern began to flicker. Akira told Hana that every wish granted in the forest came at a great price. If she wished to find her parents, Hana would be condemned to wander with him forever. Hana closed her eyes, and with a tear falling down her cheek, she accepted Akira's offer. When she opened her eyes again, Hana discovered that her parents were merely shadows in the forest, wandering among the trees. Akira, now weaker and more transparent, told her that she had made a wrong choice, but there was nothing more he could do to help her. The lantern shone for the last time, and with a soft ray of light, it disappeared into a whirlwind of wind. The legend says that the forest remains haunted by Akira's spirit, and his lantern shines every night, calling the lost souls to find their end in the darkness, in a place forgotten by the world. None of those who were drawn to it have ever managed to escape. Legend 7. The Curse of the White Crane. In a small fishing village by the sea, there lived a young woman named May. She was known in the village for her delicate beauty and for her skill in weaving silk carpets. May lived with her father, an old fisherman who had raised her alone after her mother's death. Though their life was modest, May was happy, and everyone who knew her loved her for her kindness and gentleness. One day, while Mai was walking along the shore, she saw a white crane with its wings spread wide, flying close to the water. May's eyes met those of the bird, and for a moment she felt an inexplicable connection between herself and the white crane. In an instant of inattention, a powerful storm struck, and the crane was knocked down, crashing into the water, badly wounded. Without hesitation, May ran to the bird and took it into her arms. It was a wounded bird, but its eyes shone with a strange light. Mai felt a cold chill down her spine and knew that the bird was no ordinary creature. She took it home, tended to its injuries, and watched over it until it had fully recovered. Shortly after the bird healed, it flew away, but before leaving, it looked at May one last time and spoke in a gentle voice, "You will pay a price for your kindness." Mai did not understand what these words meant, but she did not pay them much attention. However, in the nights that followed, she began having strange dreams. In these dreams, the white crane would visit her often, showing her images of a distant world, a place filled with beauty and sorrow. In every dream, the bird would tell her that she would receive a great favor, but that it would come with a price that she would only understand when it was too late. Time passed, and May began noticing changes in the village. People were growing colder, and fishing, once a prosperous activity, began to fail. The village was facing a terrible famine. More and more people came to May seeking help, hoping that she could find a solution to the misfortune that had befallen them. May, being a kind-hearted person, decided to help every person who asked for her help, never thinking about the consequences of her actions. One night, as May slept, the white crane appeared again in her dream. This time the bird told her, "You have helped everyone in the village, but now you must pay the price. You will become one with the sea, and your soul will remain trapped in the depths forever." May woke with a cry of terror and rushed to the shore. There, she saw a group of people gathered around a deserted beach. In the center of them was a massive octopus, its large, venomous arms coiled around her body. The people were terrified, but May, with unwavering determination, approached the sea creature. At that moment, the white crane appeared once more and said, "I warned you. If you wish to save the village, you must give your life and become part of the sea." Mai then understood that the curse had already been cast and her good deeds had come at a great cost. Without hesitation, she jumped into the water and transformed into another creature of the sea, a white shadow that haunts the ocean's depths forever. Since then, the village was saved, but every night, those who come too close to the sea hear a melancholy song, a song that reminds them of the sacrifice May made to save the people who never knew the price she paid to bring them salvation. Legend 8. The Whispering Bell of Kiomizo Temple. In a distant city in Japan, at the foot of a mountain, stood the famous Kiomizo Temple, renowned for its beautiful gardens and its mysterious bell. It was said that this bell had the power to call out the names of those with pure hearts, but also to deepen the fear in the souls of those with evil intentions. The temple was a sacred place where those seeking to be freed from their sins came to pray, and the bell would only toll during great gatherings or solemn events. One quiet spring night, a young man named Hiroshi, a seeker of truths, heard about this mysterious bell. Hiroshi was known for his bravery, but also for his curiosity, which sometimes led him into danger. Hearing the legend of the bell that granted the wishes of the righteous, but could also deepen the darkness in the wicked, Hiroshi decided to discover the truth behind it. He arrived at the temple in the middle of the night, when the air was cold and the silence was profound. Searching through the gardens, he discovered that the bell was unlike any other. It was larger, brighter, and seemed to radiate a strange energy. Hiroshi wanted to ring the bell, eager to find out if the legend was true. But before he could touch the rope, a gentle yet firm voice spoke to him. "Do not touch the bell if you do not wish to face the shadows of the past." However, Hiroshi, undeterred, ignored the warning and pulled the rope. Immediately, a loud, shrill sound filled the air, and a dense mist began to form around the temple. As it enveloped the area, Hiroshi saw mysterious figures moving among the trees, but they were not human. They were shadows, creatures that seemed to be demons or lost spirits, each with a glowing eye that followed him. Suddenly, the bell began to toll again, this time with a deeper and more terrifying sound. Hiroshi felt a growing pressure on his chest, as if each toll of the bell spread a malevolent force. He began to feel weak, as though his energy was being drained by the mysterious bell. As Hiroshi tried to retreat, a luminous figure appeared before him. It was a woman with long hair as white as snow, her eyes deep and filled with sorrow. She spoke to him. "You have immersed yourself in the sin of curiosity, and the bell has responded to your desires, but the price you will pay will be hard to bear." The woman continued, "This bell does not grant wishes. It answers those who have the courage to face their past. If you have been good, It will show you the path to forgiveness. But if you have sinned, it will reveal the darkest corners of your soul." Hiroshi, desperate, asked, "What have I done to deserve this curse?" The woman replied, "You have betrayed the trust of those dear to you, and the spirit of the bell will remind you of this sin. You will be trapped in an endless circle of regret." With these words, the woman vanished into a mist, and Hiroshi found himself alone, overwhelmed by terror. The bell began to toll again, but this time, Hiroshi understood that he could not escape. Every night since then, the bell has tolled for him, and its echo followed him everywhere, a constant reminder of his mistakes. No one knew if Hiroshi ever lived again, but the legend says that every night, those who come too close to the temple can hear the bell's echo and see a shadow haunting the gardens. A soul condemned to bear the weight of its past forever. Thank you for watching this video about the top 8 Japanese legends. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a like, a comment, and, of course, subscribe to this channel, Silent Scars, for more fascinating stories. See you in the next video.